Welcome into my oil painting studio. My name is Abby, and you are joining me on a very rainy day here in the Blue Ridge Mountains, which is kind of perfect because I think it's like the perfect day to paint a painting is when it's rainy and you get to be inside all cozy. Today, I am going to bring you along for a week of painting in my studio, actually, more like a week and a half. I painted two really big, fun paintings, and they are launching me in a direction that I am very excited to go with my work. Each painting that I make kind of propels my work in a new direction. I'll kind of pick up a new skill, or I'll learn that I like the way two colors go together, or I like the way patterns are working together. But this week in particular, I really loved how I laid down texture. I did a lot of laying down a brushstroke and walking away and leaving it and not fiddling with it. And that gave my work so much dimension and liveliness. While I worked today, I thought I could do a little bit of chit chatting about what's been on my mind this week as a creative. So I hope you get some inspiration and I hope that you enjoy the video. Let's get into it. When I was a little girl, I grew up in the country in Pennsylvania, and we had this kind of like country block where everything was like centered around the land that I grew up on. So, right in the middle of this square was our 36-acre farm. And then on the outside of the square were my great aunts, Loretta and Bernie, and then also some other family members. One of my biggest joys growing up was riding my bike to my great aunts' houses. I have so many wonderful memories from my time growing up, but I am going to share one with you today that has been, I don't know, like kind of on the top of my brain lately. About a mile up the road lived my great aunt Bernie and my great uncle Alan. This was my grandpa's brother and his wife. And she was a true creative. And she was like a creative in the sense of handicrafts. I absolutely love to spend time with my great aunt Bernie because she had so much creative energy. And still to this day, whenever someone has amazing creative energy, I'm like a magnet to them. My friend Ashley is like that, and I'll maybe have to tell you about her another day. So my great aunt Bernie would call me up on, a summer day, and she'd say, "Hey, you want to come and make something with me?" And I loved those invites. I thought they were so cool. It was so fun. And she gave me absolutely my love for quilting, knitting, pretty much anything that you can make with your hands with fabric and string. I got my love of that from her. I finished and I love it so much. I love the color palette. Isn't this stunning? I love the dog. He's so curly and cute. And I think that the color palette turned out really beautiful. I love the pastel paints that I decided to go with. So I want my next piece to be inspired by this piece. And I think I'm going to paint it on the canvas. It's a 36 by 36. I already screwed in my easel piece, so I just have to prep it and then I have to design the painting. I'm kind of wanting to paint a Dalmatian, but I don't know if I should paint another dog. Maybe I should paint a cat. I don't know. Maybe once I sit down and draw, I'll feel like led one way or the other. What I first need to do is get the underpainting on, and then I need to design the painting. I very clearly have some favorite colors for underpaintings, and it is these fluorescent pinks. So one day she calls me up and she says, "Hey, do you want to come and I'll teach you how to make an outfit?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely." So this tiny, tiny little town that I grew up in had a fabric shop, and my mom drove me out to the fabric shop. I bought a few yards of fabric and a pattern, and I went up to my Aunt Bernie's house. I'm dragging my feet this morning to get going on my painting, which is crazy because I have been thinking about starting this painting for like, I don't know, 3 days now. And the first thing that will kind of like break that resistance for me is putting on my gloves And then putting on my apron, which I'm getting back into the habit of wearing. And then like as simple as putting a paintbrush in my hand can like break the tension for me. Because like I'm ready to go. Like I am ready to get painting, but the resistance is real. So let's see, what paintbrush do I want to use to get my painting started? I think I want to start with a really big paintbrush so I can cover some ground quickly. What is this, like the third thing I'm going to tell you? Filling my palette up. Yesterday, I spent a little bit of time cleaning my palette and getting myself all ready. And that is also one way that I kind of put off getting to work, is doing some tidying. But now that I am coming into a nice clean palette, I'm feeling even more like, okay, yeah, I should get going. I have a bad habit of not putting my lids on my oil paints, but that's okay because I can just use my palette knife and scrape off the top. And then I can get into my paint. My palette is all set up and ready. I use a very limited color palette. Now, my Aunt Bernie had an entire room dedicated to creating, and I thought that was so incredible. And in fact, I even thought, like, when I grow up, I am going to have my very own room for creation. She had an entire wall full of fabrics and trims and buttons and paints and just like anything creative you can think about. My Aunt Bernie had it in what I now would consider her studio, but to her it was probably just a converted guest bedroom. I think of Virginia Woolf and how she is quoted saying that what a woman needs is money in a room of one's own. And that's exactly what I think we probably all need. We all need a place to create and feel like we can make a little mess and then shut the door. For many years, I created out of a 3-tiered rolling cart that I would push into a closet. I'm getting a little off track now, but now I have my studio that I absolutely adore and I'm very grateful for. But spending time with my Aunt Bernie in her guest bedroom was just such a highlight of my childhood. What she really gave me was more than a sewing lesson. She gave me the gift of her time and her energy to share with me the joy of creation. So I'm currently at a point in my painting where I'm kind of like, I don't really like it, but I do think it has potential. And I think what the issue is there's too much of my underpainting showing. So instead of just being like, I'm just going to throw this off a bridge, I'm just going to keep going and power through the ugly stage. I call it like the middle school stage. And that is exactly where I'm at. I'm like, should I keep going? Yes, I should keep going. And every single painting goes through a stage where you're like, so let's just keep painting and see how I can progress this thing. I'm liking, well, let's just keep going. I recently had a dinner party just last weekend, and there was this teenage girl that came with her mom and dad, and she was like, I want to see inside your studio. And I got that same feeling of like, oh my gosh, like my Aunt Bernie immediately came to my mind because I was like, my Aunt Bernie did this for me. She took me into her world. She opened the doors to her imagination, and she said, you can do this too if you want to. And she was wanting to look through my sketchbooks and asking me all about my paints. And I had a brand new sketchbook that I hadn't opened yet, and I gave it to her. And then I took one of these mason jars that I usually keep full of art materials, and I gave her all of these brand new Posca pens. And she was like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, 100%, absolutely. If I can be even like the tiniest touch point with creativity and to like maybe spur her on to live a creative life, or even just like have an ounce of interest in making something with her hands, that would be amazing. I just paused painting to show you guys where I'm at. So my issue was that this red and the pink were just like not quite right. What I did was I took a paper towel, a clean one, and I started wiping out the paint. And it's kind of bringing up the underpainting, and this is making it feel a lot better. Sometimes the answer isn't painting over what you already have. It's like doing some subtracting. So I'm subtracting some of this red, and I think it's helping a lot. I don't want to ever stop a painting when I don't like absolutely love it. Like I don't want things to leave my studio that I'm not like, wow, this is so cool. I am working really hard to make sure I love it just as much as the person who buys it will love it. And I'm getting there. I feel like I'm really getting there. Let me pull it back. So now I have to figure out what I want to do about the floor. And this painting right here, I did a really light floor so that the focus would be up top on the couch and the background. I think that could work in this situation as well. It would give the painting a really soft bottom so that your eyes bounce directly back up here. That's what I'm going to do next. I do love adding a black and white tile floor, but I'm on the fence because I like how that one turned out. So I think I'm going to let that painting inform this one with the decision to do a light bottom. Let's add some color and then I can figure out if that's the right choice. So here's the sad part. I never told my Aunt Bernie how much that experience with her meant to me. She recently passed maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, and I wish that I had. I wish I had told her, man, you really impacted my life in such a great, meaningful way. When I would go up and spend time with my Aunt Bernie and my Uncle Alan, I would also get pulled into their family meals. And, you know, they were older, they were my grandparents' age, so it was just them. And she would pull out a beautiful, fresh baked loaf of bread. And my uncle would come in from his day of logging and he would tell me all about, I saw this kind of tree or this kind of animal. And he gave me also so much where he gave me like the love of the outdoors and the natural world. After like an entire day of making things with my Aunt Bernie, it was probably like at least 6 hours of her walking me through every single step of making this garment. I went home so proud of this new thing that I had made, something out of nothing, which always feels like magic. And I even feel that way now, where I will have a blank canvas like this, and at the end of the day there will be an image that never existed before. And that's exactly how I felt when I made this garment. I made a top, and I could not believe that just yesterday this fabric was wrapped around a bolt in a fabric shop, and now today I was wearing a brand new shirt. Creation is magic. It is just the most wonderful feeling ever. And because I feel so strongly and intense about how much I love creation, that is why I'm doing this YouTube project. What I absolutely love is painting. I love it to like into my DNA. And I want to show everyone that joy of creation, but I also want to encourage you guys to make something. I obviously only know what I know just from my own life experiences, but I can almost guarantee you that spending time creating something will never be time lost. You'll never regret sitting down with a pen or a pencil or some yarn. You'll never regret using your time. You will never regret making something, even if it turns out badly. You will feel so good after the act of creation. So while obviously I'm bringing you guys along for all of these projects in my studio, I want to encourage you spend a little time creating, and if you can, bring someone along for the act of creation with you. There will be little bits of my paintings that, aren't super technical, or they're like really loose, like a sky. Like I just have to add some blue to the background, and I will bring my children in and I'll say, mix this color and that color, and who cares if it's not perfect, And I will let them add bits of my painting, and they are just like absolutely beaming afterwards. Oh my gosh, I can't believe let me paint it. And so this video really is a tribute to my Aunt Bernie. I am so incredibly grateful for adults who pour into children in a way that impacts their lives. And sometimes it can be as simple as, hey, here's a sketchbook. Okay, got them both up on the wall, and they're really cool. I really like it. They're almost like companion pieces, but they're not. I think that the red and the pink is really super neat. But then I also love the light pink and yellow. Gosh, these are actually really neat. I'm really thrilled with how I feel about both of these paintings. Look at that. Adults who go out and live their creative dreams or just pursue hobbies in really intentional ways, they change the world. And maybe that sounds kind of cheesy to you, but I bet you can think of an adult who did something with passion and intention that impacted your life. I can think very clearly of my friend's grandpa who had a train set in his basement, and he was in love with this thing and he did it passionately. And I loved seeing that. I loved looking at this amazing thing that technically didn't change the world, but it changed my opinion of what an adult could be like. And I thought, man, one day I get to do all of these amazing fun things and I can do them seriously. I think what I want you guys to take away from me telling you about my great Aunt Bernie is that she impacted my life by taking creation seriously. And I hope that one day someone will say that about me. Because of the way I pursued my passions, they felt the permission to pursue their passions just as seriously. I think that's all I have for you guys this week. I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining me. Bye, guys.